celebrate a victory. He's America's accountant. Please welcome to the show, Dan Geltrude. Thanks for being on, Dan. We hardly can give ourselves a pat on the back, can we?
No, not at all. Look, Scott, there is a lot riding on the results, the final results, whenever we get them, to these midterm elections. So if we're going to talk a couple of hypotheticals, we're saying, all right, the Senate is going Democrat. But hold on a second. That Georgia race is really important. Why? If Herschel Walker is able to win and it's split 50-50, now the Democrats have to get Joe Manchin on board, and most of the time they do, but he does pull back. If Herschel Walker is to lose and the Democrats have 51 to start, now they have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of getting things passed in the Senate. Now, of course, without split government, right, now we're talking about the House, absolutely more taxes and more spending. How will that play out? Well, that will play out, I believe, pretty disastrously related to the economy. Why? Well, because there's going to be more taxes and more spending, that's going to give us more inflation. What's that going to give us? Higher interest. What's that going to do? It's going to take a big chunk out of the stock market. So we cannot underestimate what these final results are going to mean.
Well, I think from my point of view, I agree with a lot of what you had to say. But I think that because the Democrats didn't lose by as much as they thought they may, they seem to be emboldened. And I think that the risk we run here is more of the same, MOTS, because they feel like they got some sort of mandate, even though they've lost. They may have probably lost the House over it. Now, if that's the case, we could be in for some trouble here.
There's no question about the fact that the Democrats are going to feel emboldened because even if they hold the House, even if the Republicans can get the House, I mean, it literally may be by one vote. How crazy is that? So the Republicans, with all the tailwinds they had between the economy and inflation and crime, if you can't build some momentum there, when can you build momentum? So to me, Republican messaging was very, very weak. They didn't get the job done. So now what happens? Well, people are going to get the government they deserve, which I agree, you're right. It's going to be a lot more of the same. So if you like what's going on, congratulations. You're going to get more of it.
Yeah, that's the problem, Dan. I spoke to Ashley, the producer, this morning. I said, back when I was a professor at DePaul University in Chicago, it feels as though I spent all semester on three things: crime, inflation. Now, the worst crime we've had in 40 years, worst inflation in 40 years, and we have no border, okay? I felt like I taught that all semester long and had a final exam on those three things, and everybody in the class failed it. And I want to go back to the drawing board saying, if I couldn't get the job done then that way, how am I ever going to get this job done? I mean, we had it on a tee laid up for anybody out there that didn't like the way it was going, and I'm hands up. I don't like the way it's going. But if we can't do it with 40-year high inflation, look at the prices we've got going on at the gas pump. Look what's happening with our southern border, and look what's happening in our big cities. How are we ever going to? How is there ever going to be some sort of mandate for the Republicans to make us safer? Because if we're not safe, we won't have an economy.
That's very true. And it's a real head scratcher. So the experts out there who were calling for a red wave for Republicans, who were wrong, are now back to the drawing board trying to figure out what happened. So now it was because of Donald Trump. It was because of weak candidates. It was because of the abortion issue. And maybe all those things had a play in it. Okay, that's fair. But were those things more important than the other issues and the pain people are feeling? Well, Scott, if that's the case, and those issues are not as important as perhaps some other social issues, well, again, we're in for a lot of pain. When we're celebrating, not we, you and I, but when there's people out there celebrating 7.7% in CPI, and this is a great thing. Well, I mean, what does it come down to?
I know. That's what I said. Nixon was doing backflips. He made it so you had to go to a price commission or a wage commission if you wanted to raise prices or raise wages. And that was at 6.6%. He couldn't believe what was happening. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be definitely an interesting ride. Really appreciate you coming on, Dan. Thanks for your insight. Dan Geltrude from Nutley, New Jersey. He's America's